All right, let's get started. We're at 12:10. And first off, I just want to thank you all so much for being here with us to sit and listen to our fireside chat with some incredible women and also Google developer experts. I think it's only fair for each of you to tell your story and a little bit about yourself. So let's just kick it off by introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about who you are, where you work, anything you want to share with our audience. Sumayyah, do you want to get started? We can go straight down the line.
Sure. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Really great to be here. DroidCon has always been a really special moment for me because as an Android developer, I started making Android apps about 10 years ago. So I am very old. And so my journey has been like in every kind of company, started at a startup, went to a big corporate company. I went to Comcast for several years, and now I work at Square. And yeah, that's me.
Wow, that's
yeah. They really all deserve a round of applause.
yeah. That's pretty amazing. And to me, I feel like it's actually an honor to get to know all the women here because that has been my go-to source of strength. And if anybody doesn't know me, my name is Madona Wambua. I do work as an Android engineer. I started doing Android back in 2014, but before that, I was a Java developer. And over the years, I've grown even more just through meeting other women and also connect with the community. And that's who I am. I'm also a GDE. I'm a mom of two. I know many people know my kids already because everywhere I go now is everybody's, where are your kids? So I bring my kids with me everywhere. But they're learning a lot too because they're getting to know about the tech world and what it means to be a mom, a working mom in tech. So yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Adeyemi. I'm an Android developer. I've been building professionally since 2015. Although I learned way before then. I've worked at startups, I've worked at big tech. I'm currently unemployed. I used to work for a company with the bird logo, if anyone knows, a bluebird. Anybody? Although I'm starting something new in October, and all I can say now it has to do with generative AI. Fun fact, I've spoken at 6 years ago, I gave 2 talks at DroidCon New York. 6 years ago, I've also spoken at DroidCons at Boston, Kenya, and London. So yeah, I just travel and speak.
Madonna, can you please explain what the GDE program is before we jump off and get into some of our questions about the program?
Wow, yeah, so that's a pretty good question. So the GDE program is by Google, and it's for developers that end up knowing the product. For instance, we identify as Android expert. That's because we are in the Android category. There are other categories, for instance, machine learning, Angular, I think web, and now geospatial. There's a lot of categories that you can become, and also Kotlin is a category too. So to me, the way I understand the program, you're good. So the way I understand the program is, once you've already been out there, this is how I think about the program myself, in my own view. So I started contributing to the community just through Women Who Code, and it's in through that where I realized that actually I can do what I was doing in even a bigger audience, because it really fulfilled my heart, just being out there, teaching other people how to code, and just sharing my knowledge. But I have to admit though, my first 5 years of my career, I never gave any talk. I was just doing work by myself until I was like struggling a lot, and I realized that you can actually meet the community and do this. And then I realized after doing that, there was a reward, which is you can be a GDE. So once you become a Google developer expert, you get that opportunity to be supported by Google, that they're giving you that authority, like, hey, you can actually represent us. So there's also an interview that you have to go through, which I think most of our team here will speak about. But you have to go through an interview, which I think mine was 4 rounds. I don't know if that's for everybody. 4 rounds, a community, another interview, and then a Google interview, and then the final one. And then after you're done, you're approved, you become a GDE. So what you get as a GDE is you get that support, which is number one, to travel, because I believe most of us here don't pay for any flights whenever we travel, because somebody was asking me, how do you manage to travel everywhere? Where are you getting the money from? I was like, I'm an expert. Google pays for that. And they were like, no way. I was like, yeah. So that's what you get in the program. I know, right?
But you never get business class.
No, you never get business class. I have to be, yeah, it's always economic, which is okay, because yours is spreading good word. So that's what it comes with it, and then the community itself. And then lastly, it elevates your career. I feel like that's what it's done to me. So that's how I can explain the programs here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think those are all really good insights around the program. But I think one of the biggest takeaways for me from your answer is like how much work you put into becoming a GDE and after figuring out about the program. I'd love to hear how each of you kind of got started on that journey, or what inspired you to kind of start going down this path, and like why that was important to you in your careers. Sumayyah, you want to start?
All right. So for me, the GDE program was really the tail end of many years of work that I had been doing speaking at conferences. And the speaking at conferences part only came after many years of mentoring and teaching and working with people within the company and outside the company. It's really about your ability to engage the community, to give back, to speak with Android developers, to really get into the community, the give and take. So for me, I did my first DroidCon talk in 2020, and I did multiple DroidCon talks over the years. And so this flowed naturally into sort of the requirements for becoming a Google developer expert.
Yeah, I think to me, I'm not going to add a lot to that, other than I did start from a very small community, Women Who Code, back in Alabama. I used to stay in Alabama when my husband was doing his PhD, so that's where we were situated, and that's where I would contribute. And then after that, I just continued doing online webinars, and then before I know it, I was being invited to speak to other events, and that's how I became like speaking everywhere. So it was pretty interesting. So I started small in the company, and then now moved to bigger conferences. I was pretty afraid, for sure. I will not lie about that, because it's not easy to give a talk where many people looking at you, and it's a professional setting, so it's pretty tough. But I continued learning that the community is always there to cheerlead for you, not to pinpoint your mistakes. But one thing that I always learned and take is I want that feedback so that I can go and improve, because nobody's perfect.
Well, I think I have the longest journey here. So I guess a number of people don't know this, but I've been involved with Google developer communities for about 10 years now. I started the first Women Tech Makers group in Nigeria way back in 2013, and gradually became a GDG lead in my uni, and then in a different state in Lagos, Nigeria. And then I started, giving talks, writing articles. At the time, I decided to become an Android developer. It was a new platform I was just excited about. I didn't know where it was going to lead. But one thing I found out was that when you're struggling with Eclipse, the R.Java files, if you know what that is, you know that Stack Overflow, I'll usually sleep on Stack Overflow. I'll have 100 open tabs trying to figure out, what was going wrong. And gradually, as I started becoming a little bit more knowledgeable, I think it just felt right to give back to the community that helped make me in the first place. So for me, it was a combination of community development, organizing, speaking, writing, and just doing that gradually over the years. I actually initially did not know what the GDE program was, but I think they say you're already a GDE before you become one, if that makes sense, because you most likely have had a track record of doing stuff like that for about 2 or more years before they agreed to let you become one. So for me, I already had that background, and I just loved the community, and I kept at it. So I've sort of evolved from being an organizer to now writing talks and contributing technically. I applied initially in 2017. Also, people don't talk about failures. I didn't get it, but I kept at it and tried again in 2019, and I became the first Android GDE from Nigeria. Well, I'm no longer based in Nigeria, so I'm not sure that counts anymore.
Such an incredible panel of women. One theme from really all of your answers was around community. You mentioned mentorship and giving talks. You mentioned Women Who Code, GDG organizing. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about was why you think that these sorts of programs are really important for communities. We heard Adam talk about the Android community during our keynote, and so this has just kind of been a continuation of themes from even last year's keynote by Madona. So can you all tell me a little bit about why you think these programs bring a lot of value to our community and why you think they're important?
Well, actually, I mean, Adam did a great job in his keynote covering the importance of the Android community. And for me personally, it's because throughout my career, I have found a lot of support from other people giving talks. This is essentially how I learned Android, because if you remember where Android was like 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 years ago, developer documentation, third-party libraries, like, not really a thing. And so the community has really rallied around Android developers, and we have given ourselves the tools and the knowledge and the help that we've needed to continue on in careers, and also building these really high-scale apps, really important apps for the world.
Yeah, I feel like, Sumayyah, that's a great point, because I realized that during also my early careers is I struggled a lot. And then I would Google, and then I would see somebody write, like somebody had written a very good blog post about how they solved the problem. And that's what made me realize that actually Android is a collective of communities, because people coming together to solve a problem that many of us are facing. So to me, that's what resonated a lot to why a community is very important and why even contributing is important. Because you might experience an issue with the navigation, somebody else must experience it. And before you know it, it's out there. That's why I like to encourage people. If you experience a problem and you can write it down and you can share with other people, just share it. It might help somebody without knowing. Because I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people that I really admired, like just meet them and I'm like, wow, back in the days, your code really helped me a lot. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes. So yeah, that's what I can say about that.
Well, I guess I always bring the funny stories. So for me, community is obviously very important, not just because of what you can get out of it, but how you can also contribute. For me, because of all the activity I've been involved in, I've gotten invited to spaces that normally or typically I wouldn't be invited to. So like most of my jobs have come through someone knowing someone, knowing someone, knowing someone, knowing someone through the Android community. I guess that's how most of them have come. And I guess it's also good to have access to people. So in the community I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria, we had people who were hungry, who were like eager to share their knowledge, who, were easily accessible. You could easily walk up to people. I know that there's also like the online community, but like Adam said yesterday, there's the part about meetups where you get to meet people in person and you just build connections or just hang out and talk tech and just build yourself over the years. So like I have a group of friends. I posted a picture recently on Twitter, a group of friends where we started out in 2017. They're also Android developers. Today we have like 2 GDEs, there's a staff engineer, we're all senior, and all we have is a group chat where if there's any issue, either with like technical stuff at work or interviewing or even salary negotiation, just anything, like we talk about it. And I think that having such foundational group of people around to support you would take you a long way in your career.
Yeah.
I want to brag that I have an incredible list of too many questions, but we also want to include any audience questions. So I'm going to ask our next, but if anyone from the audience wants to come up to the microphone, we will absolutely answer audience questions as well. So going from there, now I lost my place. I think with the title Google Developer Expert and that focus on expert, could be some misconceptions about knowing everything all of the time. And you've all introduced yourself, and so we all know that you all are incredible, have careers, have children, have written books, do talks, run marathons, do so many things outside of work, including the GDE program. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you prioritize balancing Android development and this program with the rest of the things in your life, and also kind of about the expectations of what being an expert in Android and part of this program really means.
I was going to say, if anybody here knows how to balance all this stuff, please tell me, because it's a struggle for me, for sure. the years where I start a new job or I start a new role are very intense, and the community aspect has to be scaled down. It has to be balanced, right? That being said, I always try to prioritize at least one event per year, because even though it takes a lot of effort, there's a lot of work that goes into these talks, it's still something that keeps the connection going with other Android engineers. And so I think it's just has to do with where this year your priorities are.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, Ciara, because it's a question that I get a lot too. Like, hey, you're a mom, you just wrote a book, you're doing this, how are you managing all this stuff? And what I've realized is, if you notice, everything that I'm doing is falling into the things that I love. You will not find me doing things outside my own, not comfort zone, but rather things that I like. So I realized my power is one. I do not procrastinate. I think understanding your power too is very important when you're contributing to the community. So I do not procrastinate, and that's what really helped me even finish my book. And I really want to appreciate Ciara, who was my reviewer here. She's pretty amazing, and I just want to say thank you. But that aspect of being able to handle everything it doesn't come naturally. It's just you prioritizing yourself and saying, I love doing this. This is what I'm going to do. Like in a year, this year, I feel like I've given like a couple of talks, but then I need to cap them because I have a family too, and say, hey, I know when you invite me to your talk, this is pretty nice, but I can't do it because I have this obligation. So also being able to say no is very important so that you can ensure you're balancing. So to wrap it up is just ensure what you're doing, you're passionate about it, and then it becomes easy. I feel like that's the only answer I have to this. If you love it, it becomes easy. And then also the last one is, don't do things that don't make you happy, and also like push a lot of content all the time, because I feel like that can really get overwhelming. Like you won't find me doing videos because I cannot do that. It's not my thing. You won't find me doing, what are they called? Like blog posts too. It's not my thing. I won't be able to do it, but I will do the ones that I love and at my own time frame. So yeah.
About procrastinating, I'll ask you about it tomorrow.
Yeah. You had to get up.
I'll ask you. Yeah, I guess for me, a lot of what Madona said holds true. You have to be, so first of all, as part of the GDE program, you have to fill in an activity once every 3 months, is it? I don't know what the duration is, but I try to do something every quarter. And I guess it also depends on where life is meeting me at that moment. I've had a very interesting year for people who have been following. And I've still been able to fit GDE activities around everything going on with me. First of all, the GDE community, I feel like as much as they want you to contribute, they're also very understanding. Like, I can't count the number of times Ben has been like, take all the time you need, or like, let us know if you need anything, that kind of thing. So as much as they want you to contribute, they also realize that you're human beings and life happens. I feel like also being able to set boundaries and withdrawing if you need to is helpful. So I was part of the Women Developer Academy for Sub-Saharan Africa, but it just turned out that right when I signed up to do that was when I got into like very heavy interviewing loops this year. So like, if you've interviewed recently, you probably know you're juggling like 5 companies, you're having calls every other day. And I knew that if I kept up with that program, which was supposed to last for 3 months, I probably would not have been able to give as much. And it would have been unfair on the person I was supposed to mentor. So I dropped out, and I let them know the reasons why. And that's like very possible. I knew I wanted to speak, but I knew that I could not commit to giving a talk. And when Madona came up with the idea of a panel, I was like, hey, sign me up, because that's very low effort, but you still get to contribute and you still get to talk to people and be a part of the community. So I feel like whatever options you have that work for you at that moment, not because you have to contribute, but also because it's like something you love to do, and just being open about wherever you are, and telling people like what circumstances you're in. I feel like they're very understanding. I think there's also the part where you maybe join a big company and there's a lot of restriction about what you can talk about. So I faced that a bit, and what I did was to focus on also what was happening at the time. So I think in 2020, I knew I wanted to give a talk at DroidCon London. I wasn't sure what to talk about, but I knew there was nothing technical I could talk about at that time, and I didn't want to talk about stuff from work. So what I did was look at what I was doing every day. I was doing more like of a tech lead role, onboarding people. We're in a pandemic, doing that remotely. So I decided to give a talk about remote onboarding because everybody was onboarding remotely in 2020. So I feel like also like taking a step back, looking at your situation and trying to figure out what you can share based on what's happening with you. Like, it doesn't have to be you don't have to go to the moon and talk about it. Like, it can be everyday stuff that you maybe use every day and people don't know about, or you just feel like you have to share. So that's it from me.
They should have given me a full hour. With our last 30 seconds. So quick answers, everyone. I think what we were doing as part of the GDU program can be kind of intimidating. I know I would be intimidating sitting on this stage looking 5 years ago. So with that in mind, what steps would you recommend that someone take if they're interested in getting involved with the GDE program or kind of following along in your footsteps? Where do you think folks can start?
I think community engagement is very personal. So it's important to find what works for you. And for me, that's been speaking at conferences and getting up on stage. That may not be you. It could be creating video content or written content or open source libraries or just being very active on the ground at meetups and things like that, or mentoring. Mm-hmm. All of these are totally valid ways to show that you have community engagement, and it all feeds into the experts program. Mm-hmm. And also, if you have a job as an Android developer, that helps, and if you keep the job and not get fired, this is great.
Well, I think, Sumayyah, you've just summed up everything. It's more about just being able to do what really works for you, I feel like. And as long as you're passionate about it, go on and do it. I feel like it's also very fulfilling. I don't know. It's how I feel is I feel fulfilled when I help other people. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
I think for me is get into it for the right reasons. It's easy to put on a face for 2 years and try and get into the program, but the thing is you have to keep doing it, right? So if you don't like it at the beginning, you probably won't like it when you get into it. But the good thing is like there are a lot of mediums for you to get into it. I think I see Adam here who does like a Twitch stream. Madona writes books. Some people write articles. Some people give conference talks. Some people make videos. So like, if the reasons are right for you wanting to join the program, then whatever medium you decide, nobody puts like a label on you and forces you to do one. You are liberty to do whatever really you want to, as long as you're sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, and I would just add, if like today is the day that you want to commit to being involved with the community, I would challenge you for Adam's end of his talk challenge from yesterday to share those 3 things out in public somewhere that the community is involved, and you've already taken that first step. You've already shared your knowledge, something you learned at this conference with the community. And so with that, let's give these fantastic women one more round of applause. Thank you all so much.